It was winter outside, and nature was covered in a blanket of snow. A small wooden house loomed in the distance, as if forgotten by time. Its walls seemed battered by the winds, and the roof was overhanging, barely holding its place. There was no light in the windows, and there was no sense of coziness inside. The cabin seemed lost in the loneliness of winter, despite the surrounding beauty of nature. Amid the winter silence came muffled sounds from the wooden cabin. Inside, it sounded as if someone was clumsily trying to get matches. The sounds of this failed venture skirted the air, creating a mysterious pattern in this corner of the winter landscape. Although the cabin itself did not exude coziness, the sounds from its deafening silence added to the mystery and enigmatic anticipation. Muffled sounds came from the frozen cabin, like the echo of a desperate attempt to create warmth. The girl, with a candle in her hand, stood at the window, trying to get inside this wooden shelter. Her gaze, full of loneliness, slid along the snow-covered path, and her face reflected longing. The candle barely flickered in her hand, like the last fire in the cold winter world she was determined to keep alive. Against the backdrop of the abominable winter stood Alsa Norton, daughter of the powerful Duke Norton of the continent of Odin. Rotating the candle in her hand, she stood in front of the lodge that symbolized not only the fragility of her life, but also the failures accompanying it. The gaze of Alice, the heiress of a noble family, pierced the void, solely reflecting the hardships and losses she had to face in this winter world. Alce Norton, from the very beginning of her existence, found herself in the arms of fate when her mother passed away along with her birth. She was doomed to be abandoned by this family, whose shadows of the past twisted her fate. Frozen in winter solitude, Alce carried the burden of failure like a curse, but in her hands shone the candle of hope for a change of fate that she tried to keep alive in this fragile cabin. The dark clouds over Alce's fate only grew darker. Her father's hatred and her sister's merciless abuse were a burden she could no longer bear. A determined flame flickered in her eyes, representing the decision to change her fate. The candle in her hand took on a new meaning, not just a source of light in a cold house, but a symbol of the strength needed to free herself from the shackles of hardship and suffering. Alce, deprived of love from the beginning, was like a frozen flower that didn't get the warmth it needed. The hatred and indifference of others made her humble and depressed. If given a second chance, she would take it with both hands, determined not to be so humble. Deep in her eyes glimmered the desire for change, the color of strength and self-expression she had lacked for so long in the gray of everyday life. There were two older sisters in Alce Norton's life, Elizabeth and Victoria. But even among the family whose society she seemed to form, the shadow of resentment and uneasiness continued to thicken. Elizabeth and Victoria were bound to each other not only by ties of blood, but also by heavy memories of years of hardship and adversity. Their relationship bore traces of dissatisfaction and a heavy legacy that affected Alce's every move in this wintry world. Els returned to the painful memories of when her older sister, Elizabeth, had tried to hit her. Pictures of the past surfaced in her mind, shards of broken trust and moments when, even within the family, warmth and understanding seemed insufficient. Those memories, like ice crystals in the winter air, pressed on her soul, leaving her wanting to be free of that cold and fear. Alce's sudden movement to dodge Elizabeth's blow resulted in an accident. Her hand, aimed in self-defense, accidentally struck her older sister. In that moment, an unstoppable energy flowed, intertwined with the incredible complexity of their relationship. The sound of the blow echoed like an echo of years of resentment and frustration, adding another layer of conflict to the frozen family drama. Elizabeth was pierced with incredible indignation. Her scream pierced the frozen air, reflecting the excitement and indignation at Al's unintentional action. Elizabeth's gaze, filled with rage and resentment, became a dark shadow against the snowy landscape. In that moment, resentment rang like a thunderstorm, a harbinger of a new round of tension in the scrupulously maintained family balance. Al's, filled with shame and resentment, tried to justify her intentions. Her voice, interrupted by the shrieks of the winter wind, tried to explain that there was no intention of hitting, but only a desire to take a place on the bed. But in that accusatory silence of the snowy landscape hung the unspoken shadow of misunderstanding and lasting pain. In their cold world, words paled before the whirlwind of resentment and inner trauma. Al said that all she wanted to do was settle down on the bed and prepare herself for her upcoming meeting with her father. Her mood was tense, and she decided to take a short pause to calm down. As she froze in her room, she mulled over the various thoughts and feelings surrounding the upcoming event. Time seemed to be slowing down, but she realized that the big moment was near, and she needed to gather her strength before meeting her father. Her older sister Elizabeth and younger Victoria urged her to hurry, warning her that her father was already waiting. They emphasized the importance of not keeping him waiting long. Alice felt the pressure of time and realized that she should hurry so as not to delay her important meeting with her father. In response to their insistent hand-waving, she accelerated her preparations. Alice, trapped in her own family prison, unwittingly became an object of scorn even from the servants. No one respected her, and she became something unimportant in the family pecking order. Relations with the servants were so cold that even they treated her with contempt. Alice, lonely and misunderstood, longed for a change that would free her from the shackles of family contempt. There was a feeling of utter loneliness in her soul. She felt unwanted, forgotten in the shadow of her family's tyranny. The walls of the house, seemingly lifeless, reflected her inner emptiness. There was no warmth, no understanding. She was becoming invisible, as if her essence was melting into a nameless longing. In this world of strangeness, she sought her place, where her feelings would not be ignored. Elizabeth and Victoria, her sisters, mocked her incessantly. Their words were like poisonous arrows piercing her self-esteem. They reinforced her feelings of inferiority, making her the object of constant bullying. Every time she tried to find support or understanding, they only found new ways to humiliate her. Her days were filled with fear and helplessness, leaving her in the dark shadow of her own family drama. With heart beating in impatience, she made her way to her father's study. There, in anticipation, he dimmed the lights and shivered in the semi-darkness. Her father's gaze expressed seriousness and excitement. She realized that this moment could change her life. With anxiety in her heart, she entered, ready to hear the important words he was about to say. Seeing the bound boy on the floor with his mouth closed in the study, her heart sank with shock. Her father's gaze was ambiguous too, a mixture of mystery and severity. Anxiety grew inside her. The uncertainty of what was happening clutched her heart. She realized that this moment was a clue that would turn her world upside down. Her father, with an ominous look, silently asked Alice if she knew why she was here. The tension in the air was palpable, and the answer hung in the air like a heavy sword of uncertainty. Alice's fate hung in the balance, and her heart thumped harder with the uncertainty that lurked behind that dark question. A thought flashed through her mind that she had thought she knew her father, and that he was trying to sell her at a bargain price. But now, standing before him, confusion and doubt enveloped her. Her father's eyes, sharp as a knife, pierced her soul as if he were reading her thoughts. The tension was building, and she realized that the truth might be far more complicated than she had guessed. With a voice shaking with excitement, she admitted that she didn't know why she was here or what was happening. There was tenderness in her words, mixed with incomprehension and fright at the unpredictable turn of events. Her father's gaze never lost its sternness, and every word, despite its tenderness, was like the last ray of light in the dark labyrinth of her fate. Her father began to reveal that there was a prenuptial agreement between the Nortons and the Wisters. However, since there was only one daughter in the family, the agreement had not been honored. This news made her heart sink with surprise. Unpredictable mysteries echoed in her world, and she realized that her fate would now depend on the decisions she had to make. It was shared with her father that the Wisters had returned with a neglected son, and the moment of fulfillment of the prenuptial agreement had arrived. Alice felt the ground go from under her feet. Her family's secrets were being revealed, leaving her in a maelstrom of emotions. A new turn of events was coming, and she realized that her life would never be the same again. The conversation became even more serious with her father when he added that the Wister family had given so much support to the Norton family, and now was the time to repay the favor. Alice took this as a challenge that carried with it responsibility and the need to do her part to restore balance. A decision was maturing in her heart to participate in the process of returning the support she had received from the Wister family. At that moment, her mind was filled with thoughts of how the Nortons had abused her all these 18 years, and now she was to be given in marriage to an unknown man. Feelings of helplessness and resentment raged in her soul. The idea of marrying a stranger seemed unbearable after so many years of difficult relationships in her parents' home. She was faced with a choice that could change her entire life. The guy on the floor suddenly shouted, urging her not to agree under any circumstances. His shout pierced the room, filling it with tension and despair. Alice's gaze swept toward him, and in that moment she felt the weight of his fear and despair as her own response to the incredible circumstances in which she had been thrust. The scene became even more tense when the guy on the floor dared an act of resistance and kicked. His nose began to bleed, creating additional chaos in an already tense situation. This unexpected turn of events made the situation even more dramatic, leaving questions and answers in limbo. The scene took an ominous turn when someone suddenly put a knife in the guy's hands, expressing a clear desire for him to be silent. Silence ensued, interrupted only by his heavy breathing and the whisper of blood. This gesture of threat and violence created an atmosphere of horror and hopelessness, leaving Alice and the others in the room in complete uncertainty as to what would happen next. Her father's words about the affection between Alice and Demozy added more confusion to an already complicated situation. He warned that if she really cared for Demozy, she should be concerned for his safety. The death threat created an unbearable tension in the room, and Alice was left standing in this nightmare, trying to realize the full magnitude of the situation. Alice, deep in thought, told her father that she promised to marry the Earl of Wister. In her words, one could catch not only determination, but also a certain sacrifice. This decision may have been made in an effort to ensure security and stability, despite difficult circumstances and her own personal feelings. At the ball, Alice found herself in a situation where she was to meet Earl Wister. In the whirlwind of evening luxury and dancing, she may have faced tension and uncertainty. Meeting the Earl could have been both exciting and unsettling, for this moment was an important step into an uncertain future of marriage and family obligations. Alice looked beautiful at the ball. She shone with her inner light. Her appearance may have reflected not only her physical beauty, but also an inner confidence or even determination to face an unknown future. Her brilliance could attract attention, and that evening her life could take a new turn. Her beauty charmed everyone at the ball, and excitement and curiosity swirled around her. People were eager to find out who she was, where she came from, and how she was connected to the evening. Her mystery and splendor became a subject of discussion and admiration among the guests, creating an atmosphere of mystery and admiration around her. Alice's sisters couldn't seem to resist her outward attractiveness and mystery. They were discussing her, trying to solve the mystery she was presenting at the ball. Envy, curiosity, and a certain gloating note may have been mixed into their conversations, creating additional complications in the already tangled dynamic of family relationships. The sister with a mercurial smile introduced Alice to the audience and said that this was their third sister. Her words, accompanied by a smile, may have sparked interest and questions in the audience. Depending on how she perceived the moment, this action could have been an attempt to create a favorable impression, or it could have been hiding something more complex beneath the surface of this evening. Throughout the evening, the guests talked about her. Some claimed that they had never heard of her before, while others simply could not believe in her beauty. The conversations created a mysterious aura around Alice, and her appearance became a subject of admiration and conversation among those present. This added an extra layer of intrigue and interest to the evening. The older sister revealed Alice's secret, stating that she had been kept in a private home until her first public appearance and engagement. This explained why guests had not previously heard of her and why her appearance caused such a surge of interest. The disclosure of this information added a new twist to Alice's story, revealing her past to the surprised guests. As the conversation continued, the older sister said to raise a glass in honor of Alice. This announcement probably aroused the excitement and interest of the guests, who could admire not only the beauty, but also the mystery of her past. The raising of the glass was a symbol of celebration and respect for the new chapter in Alice's life. Alice, for her part, did not understand why her older sister was so kind and caring. This unexpected kindness could cause her mixed feelings, ranging from bewilderment to suspicion. Perhaps there were hidden motives or secrets behind this unexpected support that Alice did not yet realize. The sister, showing courtesy, wanted to present Alice with a glass of wine. This gesture may have been an attempt to heighten the atmosphere of celebration and joy in light of her impending engagement. However, given Alice's distrust and the difficult situation, she could sense that there might be something more behind this desire than just a friendly gesture. Suddenly, Alice dropped her glass on the floor. This unexpected gesture might have been an expression of her inner insecurity, discontent, or even protest. The broken glass could have been a metaphor for her feelings, which were confused and unresolved. At that moment, the whole room probably froze in anticipation of the next events, not knowing how Alice would respond to this unusual moment. After Alice dropped the glass, the whole room started laughing. This unfortunate moment was probably the object of laughter that drew attention and created an awkward situation. Alice probably felt the sudden attention and ridicule from the guests, which may have added to her already complicated emotions on this difficult evening. Finding herself under the pressure of laughter and ridicule, Alice decided to run away from the hall, hearing people continue to laugh. Her departure was probably motivated by a desire to avoid further unpleasantness and to find solitude where she could put her feelings in order. This moment of sad departure may have left the audience in the hall in a state of surprise and bewilderment. As she approached the fountain, Alice heard the two maids talking. This moment of solitude would give her a chance to escape the laughter and ridicule in the hall for a while, to concentrate and understand what was going on around her. Perhaps the maids were carrying some information or observations that might clarify the situation. The maids discussed the Count and told how she had seen him slap one of their acquaintances in the face in public. This unexpected information may have added to a new complexity in Alice's life, raising questions about the character and behavior of the potential groom. She probably listened to the conversation with surprise and concern, realizing that her future might be more complicated than she expected. Alice, faced with the maid's conversation about the Count and his aggressive behavior, was frightened. Whereas before she had simply thought of marrying a man she did not love, now a new shadow loomed before her, the notion that her future might be even more difficult and dangerous. A mixture of fear, disappointment, and anxiety created a bleak outlook in her soul. Suddenly, some unknown person approached her and asked if she was okay. This attention from a stranger may have given her a sense of care and support in her moment of anxiety. Alice may have felt relieved to be able to share her feelings or at least exchange a few words with someone who was not connected to her difficult family situation. She quickly reassured the stranger, saying that everything was fine, but her eyes were directed at him. Perhaps in that moment she wanted to capture this man's mood, to understand how much she could be trusted, or simply to feel human support in a difficult situation. The gazes could convey the untold emotions and excitement she was experiencing. Stumbling, Alice suddenly lost her balance. This awkward moment might have added to her already complicated experiences at this ball. Perhaps the stranger, noticing her failure, had shown a quick reaction to help her steady herself and express concern. The stranger deftly catches Alice's eye, his gaze immersed in her enchanting eyes. This moment can be personified as a sudden caring gesture that creates an indirect interaction and exchange of emotion between the two. The look in the eyes can be a way of establishing an emotional connection, an understanding of the moment. Asking her again if everything was okay, she answered positively, saying he didn't need to worry. However, she noticed his gaze focusing on her breasts. This moment might have made Alice uncomfortable and additional feelings of discomfort. Alice is embarrassed and blushing, feeling uncomfortable with the unpleasant attention. Her reaction suggests her discomfort, and that she does not appreciate such attention. This moment may add to her already complicated emotions on this evening. Calling him a rascal, Alice turned around. Her reaction indicates her displeasure and dissatisfaction with the attention he has shown, as well as the possible violation of a personal boundary. This gesture may be Alice's attempt to assert her space and express her dislike of unwanted stares. He began to apologize to her and tell her he was sorry. This could be an attempt to express regret for his behavior and show respect for her feelings. In response, Alice could decide whether she would accept the apology or continue to maintain her position on his behavior. She had thought that the Silver Moon Hall was in the farthest part of Norton Hall, and she had asked him if he was sure that was where they needed to go. It was a sort of verification of his claim, and at the same time an attempt to find out his true intentions. Perhaps she wanted to make sure that his interest in the Silver Moon Hall was unrelated to the previous incident. He confirmed that he was sure that was where they needed to go, and she explained to him where the Hall of the Silver Moon was. Perhaps this was the conclusion of an unpleasant episode, and they decided to continue the evening in a more comfortable and less awkward setting. He, not understanding the situation, Alice seeing this, told him to follow her. Perhaps she decided to take the initiative and lead him to the Silver Moon Hall, where they could continue the conversation or participate in the event. He noticed that Alice was still sad. This observation could have caused him concern or a desire to know the reason for her sadness. Perhaps they could talk about what had happened, or perhaps he decided to try to cheer her up. By asking why she was not happy or what happened to her, he showed concern and interest in her emotional state. It was an attempt to understand what had happened and why she was sad. Such a question could open a dialogue about her feelings and the events of the evening, creating an opportunity for conversation and support. Alice wanted to say something but could not, for he was a stranger to her. This feeling of dislike or dissatisfaction may have created a barrier to being frank with him. In these situations, there may be shyness or reluctance to share personal feelings with someone she considers a stranger. He told her that if she kept her feelings to herself, it could pose a threat to her internal state. He suggested the idea that sharing it with someone else might make it easier for her. This expression of care and understanding may have been an attempt to help her unload her emotions and find support in talking to another person. Her confusion or sadness may have intensified after his words. Perhaps the suggestion that she share her feelings with someone else has caused her additional anxiety or uncertainty. Such moments can be difficult and require careful handling and support. Her tears began to flow. This is a clear sign that her emotions have become overwhelming, and she is experiencing deep feelings, perhaps related to difficulties in her life or current situation. He noticed her tears and handed her a handkerchief so that she could wipe her eyes with it. This gesture expresses his concern and willingness to support her in her time of need. She rejoiced and thought how nice of him. This caring gesture probably made her feel grateful and understood, creating a moment of support in a difficult situation. She said that she had no one to turn to for help, and moreover that no one would help her in her situation. This is a reflection of her feelings of loneliness and helplessness. It may be difficult for her to see a way out of a difficult situation, and she feels alienated from support. She said that she has been pushed away by the love of her life, and now she is about to marry a man she does not love. This revelation highlights her feelings of loss and perhaps making a decision in favor of marriage despite her lack of love in it. Her words may express complex emotions and soul-searching about her own life's journey. He asked why marry a man she did not love, and she replied that if he had been born into the Norton family, there was nothing he could do about it. This answer may indicate family pressures, obligations, or other factors that may influence her decision to marry despite her lack of love. He thought deeply about the possibility of marrying Issa Norton. He asked himself the question, is it so bad? There were shadows of doubt in his thoughts, but at the same time there were glimpses of the moments of happiness he was anticipating. He weighed the pros and cons, realizing that this decision could turn his life around. The Count, looking into Issa Norton's eyes, decided to inquire why she was so convinced that marriage was not the best choice. The words of his question carried notes of curiosity and tenderness, reflecting a willingness to understand and accept the point of view of the possible bride. There was an atmosphere of conversation in the air, full of important decisions and a sincere desire for understanding. Isa Norton looked at the Earl with a shadow of mystery in her eyes and told him about the rumors that had been circulating about her supposed future husband. Her words sounded like a mysterious story, that he, having been lost in childhood, had been raised by wolves. This story added a note of mystery to the discussion and created an enigmatic aura around the possible union. His eyes reflected his bewilderment and wonder at the mystery of this unusual story. The mysterious circumstances and unexpected details stirred his soul, revealing to him a world of mystery and unexplored possibilities. Suddenly, the Count and Alice met in an embrace, and their gazes merged in a single moment. At that moment, their eyes were filled with mixed emotions: surprise, tenderness, and perhaps even a little anxiety at the uncertainty of the future. They exchanged a silent language, and their embrace reflected a willingness to accept the challenges they would face together. Isa released from the Count's embrace and asked him with a question of excitement, "What are you doing?" There was a shadow of curiosity in her voice. Perhaps she was seeking not only an answer to a specific question, but also an understanding of his thoughts and feelings. The Count, in response to that question, would perhaps share his thoughts on what had happened. The Count nodded his head in readiness, expressing his determination to support Isa in her possible difficulties with the barbarian. The fire of determination sparkled in his eyes, ready to engage in an uncharted battle to protect and accompany her along the way. Isa looked at him with recognition, seeing in his eyes not only a knight, but also a loyal ally. Her eyes flickered with bewilderment and slight disbelief, not understanding how the Count could offer his protection to such an unfamiliar lady. Isa's questioning gaze expressed a mixture of doubt and curiosity at this unexpected offer, opening the door to a possible unraveling of secrets and the formation of a mutual understanding between them. The Count, sensing the perplexed look of Isa, put his arm around her waist again, as if emphasizing his sincerity and willingness to support her. His embrace could be not only a gesture of protection, but also a way to convey warmth and confidence, trying to create a moment of mutual understanding in this unusual situation. Through the embrace, the Count heard Isa's words about her decision not to marry this man. Despite her certainty, he expressed his confidence that he could take her away. His words sounded like a challenge to fate, a promise of protection and willingness to fight for her freedom, even if she didn't realize it yet. Such a gesture of the Count taking Isa's hair in his hands could have been an expression of his inner turbulent emotions and aspirations. It could also have been a symbol of tenderness, an attempt to emphasize her femininity and make her feel his presence closer. The secret shades of their relationship are hidden in this moment, filling the air with tension and intrigue. Perplexity lit up Isa's eyes as the Count took her hair in his hands. Her gaze could read questions and uncertainty, not understanding the Count's intentions. This gesture might have created a moment of tension in their communication, demanding explanations or causing unexpected emotions in Isa. Isa expressed her dissatisfaction and discomfort by asking the Count to let her go and indicating that his actions had become too much for her. Her words may have carried a determination to set boundaries and maintain personal space, while the Count may have realized the poor choice of his gesture and faced an unexpected rupture in their interaction. The Count's inner musings were filled with reflection after Isa's words. He realized that the beautiful lady did not want his presence and decided to change his approach, choosing a softer and more considerate approach to communication. In his reflections, he could see intentions to adapt to her preferences and respect the situation. The Count, wishing to change the situation and express his feelings in a more tender way, took a red, shining rose and handed it to Isa. Her eyes reflected bewilderment, and she tried to understand what he meant by the gesture. The rose could be a symbol of love, an apology, or an attempt to restore balance after a previous misunderstanding. The Count, taking the rose in his hands, began his apology, acknowledging his rudeness. He expressed regret for his actions, explaining that her tears had hurt his heart, and he sincerely wanted to make up for his mistake. The Count begged Isa for a second chance, leaving hope in the air for the possibility of a change of scenery and the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship. Isa, taking the rose from the Count's hands, apologized for his behavior, expressing her favor for his apology. However, she honestly admitted that she could not promise him anything. There was a cautiousness and reservation in her words, indicating her distrust and caution in continuing their relationship. The Count, with understanding in his eyes, asked Isa why she thought her desires didn't matter. In this question sounded concern and a desire to understand the root of her feelings. The Count may have been eager to shed light on the reasons for her caution and dissatisfaction, willing to listen to her point of view and consider her feelings. The Count, after listening carefully to Isa, realized that she was enjoying the life Norton had given her and therefore felt that she had to deal with Norton's problems. This realization may have caused the Count to understand the complexity of the situation and set the stage for a new level of understanding between them. He might decide to support her and take part in resolving these problems. Isa, revealing her thoughts to the Count, told him that she had never seen her fiancé and would only learn about him from other people. She emphasized that all this talk could be just rumors. This information could bring additional elements of uncertainty and mystery to their situation, emphasizing the unknown future and the difficulty of decision-making. The information that her fiancé is a barbarian has added to the new aspects of complexity. Isa may see this fact as the reason for the current situation. Picturing him only through rumors and the image of a barbarian may give her decision a deeper context and understanding. These added complexities may make her choice more difficult and require more careful weighing. Despite the difficult circumstances and preliminary rumors, Isa claims she will have a great relationship with her barbarian fiancé. Her confidence may indicate that she sees beyond the stereotypes and is willing to give him a chance, even in spite of the current uncertainty. There is optimism in her words and a willingness to explore possible prospects in their future union. The Count, looking at Isa carefully, agreed with her words and noticed that her decision made sense. His response could be supportive, understanding of her point of view, or simply an acknowledgement that he was beginning to see logic and meaning in her decision to accept her fate and her choices. The Count, in expressing his remark, pointed out the contradiction in Isa's words. He emphasized that she had just remarked that she could not betray her fiancé, and now she was accepting flowers from him, which might cause him to understand and question her true feelings and intentions. Isa, noticing the Count's remark, asked him not to be rude to others, considering it an insult. Her words probably expressed her desire to maintain friendly relations and avoid conflicts. Perhaps she wanted to keep peace in their society and warn the Count against confrontations with others. Isa informed the Count that if he went straight on this road, he would soon reach the Silver Moon Hall. Her words may have contained a clue or direction, showing him the way or inviting him to explore the place. Depending on the context, it could also be a metaphor for the conversation or an indication of some important place in their history. The Count thanked Isa sweetly for the information and politely asked to join her. His manners probably expressed respect for her words and a desire to continue their conversation with respect for her boundaries. This gesture might indicate his desire to maintain a pleasant atmosphere in their conversation. Isa, watching the Count leave with interest, smiled. Her gaze and smile could reflect the pleasure of the meeting and perhaps hope for future communication. This moment could also emphasize the positive perception of her side towards the Count. Suddenly turning around and heading towards her, the Count was hiding something behind his back. This unexpected turn of events might have aroused curiosity and excitement in Isa, who might have been waiting for the end of their conversation. Perhaps the Count was preparing some kind of surprise or just wanted to add mystery to their communication. Looking at her, the Count savored the beauty of her face. He could see admiration and perhaps even some deep feelings in his gaze. This moment created an atmosphere of attention to detail and intimacy, allowing them to exchange silent emotions through their gazes. This turn of events creates a tense situation in which Isa, not realizing what is happening, is captured. This may cause her excitement, fear, or bewilderment, depending on the nature of the action and how she perceives such situations. Saying that everything was fine, the Count tried to calm Isa down after the unexpected moment of griping. His words could be an attempt to explain that his intentions were not malicious, but rather had a friendly nature. It could also be a moment for him to clarify his intentions and establish trust in their interaction. Placing an expensive brooch on her dress, the Count adorned her with the amazing accessory. This gesture may have been an attempt at apology or a compliment filled with tenderness. The amazing brooch he chose could have been a symbol of his admiration and desire to adorn her even more. The Count, explaining that the brooch was a thank you for her help, offered her this expensive gift. However, Asa refused to accept, stating that it was too expensive. This moment shows her modesty and perhaps her discomfort with such a valuable gift. Perhaps the Count, in giving her this gift, wanted to express his gratitude in a special and meaningful way. Saying that such kindness was not given to everyone, the Count expressed his gratitude and apologized for any inconvenience he might have caused the previous evening. The gift was probably a way for him to show how much he valued Aisa's help and company, as well as to express regret for any previous difficulties or misunderstandings. Saying goodbye, the Count fled, leaving Aisa with the gift in her hands. This moment creates a sense of mystery and incompleteness, leaving behind a mystery and perhaps encouraging Aisa to reflect on what has happened. Alice, upon entering the hall, found herself the center of attention, where everyone was talking about her beauty and splendor. Her appearance probably attracted admiration and delight, creating an atmosphere of admiration and respect. At this point, she probably became the object of general admiration and conversation. Her sisters felt jealous when they saw that she was the center of attention. Their reaction may have been due to feelings of resentment or rivalry, as Alice drew attention and praise from everyone. This element of envy may have added complexity to the family dynamics. Earl Wister appeared in the hall. His sudden appearance probably caught the attention of everyone present. New emotions and expectations might have arisen at this moment, especially given Alice's previous interactions with the Earl. The discussion of Earl Wister began because his clothes looked unkempt and his boots were dirty. These details of appearance could cause irritation and resentment among those present, especially if they were accustomed to a certain standard of elegance and grooming. Alice couldn't believe that the stranger who gave her the brooch turned out to be a count. This unexpected discovery might have caused her shock or surprise. Perhaps she was beginning to realize that the meeting was more significant than she had anticipated, and that the Count had played a more important role in the evening than she had imagined. The Count apologized for his tardiness, explaining that he had been confused by the wrong instructions. His apology could have reflected his desire to maintain a good relationship with Alice and to explain the reason for his delay. It could also have been a show of courtesy and respect for her time. Her sisters had ridiculed her because the Count was late and gave incorrect instructions. They probably used this moment to show their envy and displeasure with Alice, adding a note of ridicule to their overall perception of her. This creates a tense dynamic in the family relationship. As he begins to approach her, the Count may be eager to continue communicating with her and perhaps apologize or clarify his actions. This moment may evoke different emotions in Alice, as she probably did not expect to encounter him after past events. Suddenly kneeling down, the Count took Alice's hand and kissed it. This gesture could be a show of apology, a romantic reunion, or a way of expressing his feelings. Alice's reaction is perhaps varied, ranging from surprise to acceptance of the gesture. Greeting her sweetly, the Count told her that he was her fiancé. This statement can evoke a variety of emotions in Alice, including surprise, joy, or even bewilderment, especially if she did not expect such a turn of events. Taking a bowl of water, which was probably meant for him, the Count prepares to drink. This moment may be part of tradition, ritual, or simply a manifestation of his involvement in current events. While they were still discussing and ridiculing them, the situation remained tense. The ridicule may have created additional pressure on Alice and the Count. The Count may have been criticized because of his appearance or actions, and Alice may have felt additional dissatisfaction with the attitudes of others. Alice, angry, took the bowl from the Count's hands and drank the water. This gesture may be a manifestation of her emotions and perhaps her displeasure at being ridiculed or attacked by others. She may be trying to show her strength or simply express her feelings in the situation. The Count, looking at Alice with love and gratitude, may be trying to convey his feelings to her in response to her show of strength and determination. This look may be an attempt to express deep appreciation or empathy for a difficult situation. One of Alice's sisters came up and announced that it was their custom to open tonight's feast. This suggestion probably introduces an element of tradition or ritual into the setting, despite the previous unpleasantness. It may also be an attempt to ease the tension and return to more mundane moments. He asked Alice if she could dance with him. This suggestion may be an attempt to change the atmosphere after previous unpleasant moments and create a more positive interaction between them. She agreed, even though she felt embarrassed. This action may reflect her desire to overcome her tension and accept the Count's proposal in a spirit of openness and reconciliation. The people around them were watching and whispering, perhaps discussing the moment. Their dance may have attracted attention and sparked conversation among those present. This public interest may have put additional pressure on Alice and the Count, or conversely, added a special moment to their evening. The Count told her not to be afraid or worried about them, but to just be happy. This could have been his way of supporting Alice and trying to ease her shyness. His words could have been aimed at creating a positive atmosphere and emphasizing the importance of enjoying the moment, regardless of external evaluations. She told her that they both don't know how to dance, but customs make them. This remark could mean that even if they are inexperienced in dancing, they still follow customs and traditions, perhaps in order to meet certain expectations or simply in respect for the customs of the event. This gesture of the Count, offering a dance, may be an attempt to show them that they are welcome and valued guests. Inviting them to dance can be a way to express joy at their presence and create a pleasant atmosphere in the room. After the dance, everyone applauded. This can be a sign of approval and favor from those present. Applause can also mean recognition of the Count and Alice's efforts and attempts to make the evening more enjoyable for everyone. Alice's soul was filled with joy as everyone applauded after the dance. This moment of happiness may have given her confidence and positive emotions in light of past unpleasant situations. The dance became a source of joy and encouragement for her. Alice continued to dance and have fun at the banquet. This turn of events may indicate that she found joy and pleasure in the present moment, despite the initial difficulties. Her participation in dancing and having fun may also emphasize her ability to move through difficulties and find joy in the events around her. Alice's sisters continued to envy her, predicting that she would be in trouble after the banquet. This may indicate that they maintain a negative view of Alice and assume that the consequences of the evening will be unfavorable to her. The sisters may be maintaining a negative view of the Count and attempting to remind Alice of the possible difficulties. Alice went to her father's study, and his angry eyes filled the room with malice. It is likely that something in her father's study made Alice resentful or afraid. The angry eyes could be a symbol of her father's strictness or indicate possible difficulties she will face. Her father said he heard her drink the water and asked if she knew the shame Norton had brought upon their family. This may indicate that Alice's behavior at the banquet displeased and angered her father. He may have felt that her actions had damaged the family's image or caused a scandal. Her sisters continued to speak ill of Alice, claiming that she was at fault. This indicates that Alice's sisters maintain a negative attitude toward her and probably hold her responsible for some difficulties or incidents at the banquet. They may be making an attempt to emphasize her mistakes or create more difficulties for Alice within the family. Alice's father was angry. His emotional state was probably caused by his daughter's behavior at the banquet and the possible consequences for the family's image. The father's anger may indicate deep anxiety or dissatisfaction with the situation. She was trying to explain why she did it. This may be her attempt to clarify her actions and share her perspective. She may have wanted to convey her motives and clarify that she did not do it with the intention of damaging the family reputation. She said she drank the water on purpose because he didn't look stupid. She was probably trying to prevent damage to the family title and to emphasize the importance of others continuing to treat her family with respect. Her words may have expressed concern for the family's reputation and an attempt to warn against the possible consequences of her action. The father, upon hearing this explanation, said that she was free to go. This could mean that he may have understood or accepted her motives and decision. He may have felt that her act was not worth serious punishment. However, Her sisters were furious because they probably expected a more severe intervention from their father in this situation. Alice thanked her father and left. Her reaction may have been a sense of relief or an opportunity to avoid further trouble. Perhaps she decided to temporarily remove herself from the tense situation and let things calm down. The father told the sisters that they needed to teach Alice not to do anything demeaning to their family. This statement reflects his desire to preserve the family's reputation and his dissatisfaction with Alice's behavior. Perhaps he believes that the sisters can have a positive influence on Alice and help her avoid such incidents in the future. She sat quietly and drank her tea. Perhaps after talking to her father and relatives, Alice decided to have a moment of peace and tranquility for herself. Drinking tea may be a way to relax and unwind after past emotional events. Suddenly, one of the sisters throws her a book. This unexpected action may cause Alice to have mixed feelings: surprise, or even displeasure. The context of the book and the reason for the gesture may vary, and it may have been an expression of emotion or even an attempt to get Alice's attention. She asked what the book was, to which she was told that she should read it. This action by the sister may imply that they think this book is important or interesting to Alice. Perhaps it is some literary choice that they want her to consider or read. She opened the book, wondering if her sisters could be so kind. This expression of doubt or surprise may reflect Alice's assumption that kind acts on the part of her sisters seem unexpected or uncharacteristic. Perhaps she expected something different from her sisters, and this moment causes her to have some inner reflection. Alice was an innocent girl who was not yet in a relationship. This may add context to her reaction to the content of the book and emphasize her lack of experience with personal relationships. Her sisters may have chosen to support her in this regard by offering advice from the literature. Her sisters said they would help her, show and tell her what to do and how to do it. This may be an expression of support and a desire to help Alice learn new experiences in relationships. Perhaps the sisters want to share their experience and advice to help Alice enter the world of personal relationships more confidently. It was night outside and Alice was getting ready for bed. This moment may signify the end of the day for Alice and preparation for rest. Suddenly she hears a knock on the window. This unexpected sound may cause her to be surprised and curious. Alice might decide to check what could have caused such a knock at that hour of the night. It was Demozy. He said he couldn't leave her. This unexpected visit and his words may cause Alice to wonder and question. It may be the beginning of some conversation or plot development in their relationship. He tells her not to marry Wister, but to marry him. This suggestion may indicate that Demozy is expressing his feelings and desire to be with Alice. He may be offering her his love and asking her to choose him as her partner. She told Demozy no and suggested that he marry Wister, claiming it was the best choice for him and for her own life. This may be a manifestation of her beliefs, her ideas about Demozy's happiness, and her desire to provide him with a better future. Demozy was shocked at what he heard. He made a charge to her, claiming that she liked rich guys and begged her to go with him. This scene may reflect feelings of jealousy, frustration, and misunderstanding on the part of Demozy, who may believe that Alice prefers wealthier partners. She said no, and added that it would be fairer for the Norton family to marry her off to the Wister son. This may be an expression of her commitment to family values, traditions, or obligations. Perhaps she sees it as the best option for preserving family relationships and social status. She closed the window, and he was still yelling after her, but she didn't turn around and walked away. This may be the moment of the end of their conversation or conflict. Alice may have decided not to continue the discussion, and is showing her determination to end the scene. A bright morning greeted the wedding day. The sun was rising, coloring the sky in warm hues. Cheerful birds sang their melodies affectionately, creating an atmosphere of fun. The air was filled with the scents of flowers. The groom, in a light-colored denny, was eagerly awaiting the moment when he would become a husband. The joyful voices of family and friends filled the space, creating an atmosphere of love and happiness. The wedding day promised to be unforgettable, full of joy and smiles. He stood at the altar and waited for her Alice. His eyes glimmered with nervousness and excitement, but also with boundless love. The atmosphere before the altar was solemn, and the flowers and decorations only emphasized the importance of the moment. Time seemed to slow down until finally the doors opened and the bride, Alice, entered, gorgeous and happy. Her gaze met his, and at that moment the whole world seemed filled with just the two of them. Tenderness flickered in her gaze as she walked up the aisle in front of her father. Her father, in heartfelt joy and slight sadness, took her hand, preparing to hand her over to her groom. At that moment, only the quiet whisper of the wind and the heartbeats in their chests could be heard. Her father smiled at her as if confirming his faith in his daughter's happy future. Thus began a new chapter in their lives, merging past and future into a single family celebration. She was beautiful as if from a fairy tale. Her beauty shone like a light. Her whole body shone with happiness like a star in the sky. Her smile drew stares, and her eyes radiated joy. In her snow-white dress, she looked like an angel descended from heaven. Every moment with her was like a miracle, and on this day her beauty was the epitome of love and grandeur. She was not only beautiful, but also sparkling with happiness and tenderness. He, too, was radiant with beauty in his white suit. His image was as if from a dream, full of brilliance and elegance. The white color emphasized his dignity, and every detail of the suit spoke of careful preparation for this important event. There was a gleam of joy and excitement in his eyes, and his smile carried a vow of happiness. Together they created a striking picture in which beauty and love were intertwined, leaving a memory of a day full of majesty and mutual beauty. Words of fidelity and devotion resounded in that silent vow which the Count made when he took Alice Norton to be his wife. Glances full of promise crossed between him and his bride. Their hearts pounded in unison, as if feeling the weight of an important decision. Silence surrounded them, as if emphasizing the importance of the moment. The words of the promise remained unspoken, but their presence in the air was palpable, like an invisible pact binding two souls for life. The words "yes" sounded like an answer to the question hidden in the Count's important gaze. That brief moment in which he agreed changed everything. In the silence of the surrounding space, words were not needed. Feelings were conveyed by silence. His yes was a promise that overflowed the air with joy and hope. In that moment, the world around them seemed filled with love and possibility. Their destinies intertwined into one great story that began with a simple but powerful word. Alice Norton also agreed, her answer sounding like a quiet whisper of wind, filling the air with warmth and determination. Her agreement was a promise to be faithful and present in all moments of life, be it joy or hardship. Alice's gaze shimmered with confidence, and in that moment, as if making a deal with fate, she was accepting responsibility for her own happiness and the happiness of her chosen one. In their agreement sounded the wisdom of love, the promise to be together in every turn of their common destiny. Their kiss was like a magical moment where the atmosphere of love soared. At that moment, when their lips joined, sparks of feelings and passion seemed to float around them. Love hovered in the air like an invisible force, uniting the two souls. The whole world froze, and they became the only inhabitants of this magical moment. The kiss was not only a physical embrace, but also a symbol of the beginning of their journey together, filled with love, respect, and mutual understanding. He gently opened the box containing the ring and, like a pearl shimmering with beauty, took her hand. The ring, adorned with the luster of the gemstone, seemed to shine with itself at this special moment. As he gently placed it on her finger, the sparkling beauty of the ring seemed to join the brilliance of her eyes. This act was a symbol of their vow, a testament to their mutual devotion and enduring love, shining brightly in their shared future. Her stepsisters could not hide their envy when they saw the expensive ring shining on Alice's finger. The pink diamond was like a magnet, attracting stares and causing a stir all around. A flicker of displeasure flashed in their eyes, and in that instant, it was clear that the sparkle of this jewelry only widened the gap between Alice and her envious sisters. But Alice, her eyes filled with happiness, knew that the real value of the ring was not in its material worth, but in the love and vow it symbolized. His words filled the air with a sense of pride and confidence. By telling Alice that he could afford to marry, he was expressing not only his financial solvency, but also his readiness to take responsibility for family life. In these words sounded self-confidence, the desire to create a strong family and share with Alice all the joys and difficulties of life. This moment became one more brick in their common future, where love and financial stability went hand in hand. In uttering these words, he emphasized the importance of the moment and his willingness to take on the role of not only husband, but also protector, partner, and friend. From today she is his was more than just a statement of the fact of marriage. It was a promise to be there for her in joy and sorrow, to be her support and faithful companion throughout their life together. These words were the start of a new phase where their destinies began to intertwine into a single whole. She sat in the bathtub, the water surrounding her body with a warm caress, her mind immersed in thoughts of the ring. Her imagination flickered with images of the pink diamond sparkling on her finger. A beautiful fantasy painted a picture of splendor and love. Every ray of light in the bathroom reflected not only the moisture on her skin, but also the sparkling joy of the vow this ring symbolized. The moment in the bathtub became a time of intimacy with this important symbol, a reminder of the love that was in the air that special day. In the bathroom, surrounded by silence, her thoughts headed toward him. She couldn't separate her thoughts from the impression that he was rude. Moments when his words or actions seemed indecent may have surfaced in her imagination. These reflections, floating in the water along with the soap bubbles, created a complex image of love that included both the sparkling joy of the ring and the shadow of misunderstanding. Maybe that moment in the bathtub helped her realize the need for a frank conversation about feelings and understanding between them. Her face reddened as she thought of him in the bathroom. This reaction might have been indicative of the mixed feelings she was experiencing. Perhaps even in her own reflection on his rudeness, embarrassment and love peeked through. Blushing, she may have recognized that there were difficulties in their relationship, but at the same time, her heart beat faster at the notion of him. The relationship may have been nuanced, but her blushing may also reflect the passion that flared at the thought of him. Her bewilderment at why she felt strange could have been the result of internal conflicts and paradoxical emotions. She may have experienced both love and relationship doubts at the same time. Mixed feelings can sometimes cause inner tension and uncertainty. She may have needed to take a closer look at her emotions, communicate with her partner, and figure out what exactly is causing this strange state. Communicating and understanding herself can help her resolve her inner conflict and better understand her feelings. The maid knocked on the door and told her that she had been in the bathroom for 2 hours and they were waiting for her. This sudden sound interrupting her musings brought her back to reality. She could feel the embarrassment and surprise of realizing that she had drifted so far into her thoughts that she had forgotten the time. With that reminder, she would probably quickly decide to get back to her wedding preparations, leaving her musings for later. She thought it was time to finish with her water treatment and stepped out of the tub. The water ran down her body, leaving her feeling refreshed. Having completed her moment of solitude, she decided to face her big day with renewed vigor and full readiness for the triumph. New chapters were now unfolding before her, beginning when she would rejoin the wedding preparations and meet the people who were waiting eagerly for her. She went to the door and knocked. She was told to come in. Her heart beat faster with anticipation of what was happening behind the door. With excitement and determination, she opened the door, ready to face the next phase of this important day in her life. Beyond the threshold, joy, the smiles of her loved ones, and the most exciting moment of all, meeting the man she had promised today to love and respect for the rest of her life, might be waiting for her. She entered the room and saw the Count sitting on the bed with a book in his hand. His attention was fixed on the pages, but at her appearance he raised his eyes and an invisible spark flashed in their meeting. Their gazes crossed, and in that moment something special rang out in the room, as if time had slowed down. It was another of those moments when they merged into a single picture, embodying anticipation and love, filling the room with a special energy. She was beautiful, like a ray of sunlight illuminating the room. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and her smile gave everything around her a special meaning. The magnificent dress emphasized her sophistication, and her natural beauty subdued the attention of everyone who gazed into it. At this moment, as she stood before the Count, her radiance seemed to penetrate through time, creating an image that would live in their memories for years to come. The Count's gaze, rising from the book, expressed interest and concern. He, recognizing something peculiar in her manner of sitting in the bathroom, was ready to support her, to offer his help. Her facial expression, in response to a question, could have been a mix of gratitude for his concern to a smile, an acknowledgement that she really needed his presence. The exchange of glances could be a silent language that said that something special and non-verbal was happening between them at that moment. The Count, raising his eyes from the book, met Alice's gaze. She looked up at him without saying a word, and something quiet and mysterious flashed in her eyes. He could read in her expression that she was not just sitting there, but thinking or worrying about something. In answer to his question, she simply smiled, as if to confirm that everything was all right, and moved toward him, as if drawn by the invisible bond that united their hearts. Suddenly, she removed her dress from her body as if she had decided to take a water treatment. This moment was an act of spontaneity, and her action filled the air with a charge of freedom and refreshment. Perhaps it was her way of refreshing herself and preparing for the next stages of wedding preparations. A new energy swirled in the room, as if to symbolize the transition from one stage to the next on the big day. The Count, in surprise, and perhaps with a note of embarrassment, said he didn't mean it. His reaction might have been mixed because of the suddenness of the moment. There could have been a brief pause at this point, as both realized the misunderstanding. However, his reaction could also have included understanding and a willingness to laugh or joke to lighten the mood. In his eyes, she seemed naked, exposed, as if fragile and delicate. This moment could have been an intertwining of feelings of surprise, admiration, and perhaps tender intimacy. The Count's gaze meeting the nakedness of her beauty may have expressed a deep intimacy between them. At this moment, something special might have been happening as their naked souls and bodies joined in gentle silence, creating a sparkling atmosphere. He might have said that he just wanted her to come to the bed, clarifying his intentions and apologizing for a possible misunderstanding. His words could have been care and tenderness and a desire to create a comfortable and understanding moment between them. This episode could have been another step in their mutual understanding and bonding on this special day. If she was the first to initiate and he did not protest, it may have emphasized their mutual trust and openness to each other. He may have sensed that moment and decided to enter into an intimate and close moment, supporting their mutual feelings. Such nuances could be part of the intimate dynamic and understanding in their relationship. The impulsive onset of such a moment may be a manifestation of passion and attraction. By approaching her and kissing her, he was probably expressing his closeness and desire to share this intimate moment with her. This moment of kissing may be a language of mutual affection and intimacy, creating a special and tender interaction between them. By putting his arms around her waist, he may have been reinforcing this moment of closeness and intimacy. The embrace could express not only passion, but also a sense of protection and acceptance. Tenderness may have resounded in this embrace, and the shared warmth may have created an atmosphere of mutual affection and intimacy. Such moments can be important to strengthen the bond between two people and create special memories. The sudden repulsion and expression of embarrassment may have changed the dynamics of the moment. Her reaction could have been caused by various factors, such as inner feelings, the unexpectedness of the situation, or her own emotional states. It is important to keep in mind that people react differently to intimate moments, and communication becomes key to understanding each other's feelings and needs. The Count, sensing her resistance, asked why she was resisting. His question could express concern and a desire to understand what was going on in her inner world. This was a moment when frank dialogue could be the key to mutual understanding and resolution of misunderstandings. It is important to note that mutual consent and boundaries are important to consider in intimate situations. And talking about feelings can help create a more comfortable environment for both partners. The Count, noticing her embarrassment and resistance, asked if something was bothering her. His question expressed concern and willingness to be supportive of any question or concern she might have. It was an invitation to talk openly about feelings and possible concerns so that they could resolve any misunderstandings together and continue their important day with mutual understanding. Taking the blanket, the Count threw it over her. This gesture could be understood as a show of care and warmth, making her feel more comfortable and protected. The blanket, as if covering her, could be a symbol of care and desire to make things closer and warmer in their relationship. Seeing her embarrassment, the Count told her to forget that he didn't like intrusiveness and offered to talk when she was ready. Those words expressed understanding, patience, and a willingness to respect her feelings and personal space. It was also an invitation to open and honest communication, emphasizing the importance of mutual agreement and respect in their relationship. She responded by saying she didn't mean it. This may be an attempt to clarify her feelings and intentions, to clarify what happened, and to avoid misunderstandings. The importance of open and honest communication in these situations is emphasized so that both partners understand each other and feel comfortable in the relationship. By approaching him, she was probably expressing a willingness to talk or be intimate. This could have been a sign that she was ready to reconnect and continue her day in an easier and more open atmosphere. The hope for a closer understanding and overcoming misunderstandings that had arisen may have been an expected part of their interaction. As she began to kiss him, she was expressing her emotions and desire for intimacy. The blushing and nervousness could have been signs of her excitement and passion at that moment. It could also reflect her desire to increase intimacy and strengthen the bond between them after the misunderstandings. By telling her that her moods change rapidly, Graf may have been expressing his perception of her emotional dynamics. This could have been an observation based on her previous reactions and behavior. Such a conversation could have been a step toward openly discussing feelings and emotions so that both could better understand each other and deal with misunderstandings. By lifting her up on his arm, the Count may have been trying to add playfulness and joy to their interaction. The gesture may have also expressed physical closeness and caring. In this moment, they were probably both trying to create a lighter and more positive environment after previous emotional moments. By throwing her on the bed, the Count was probably bringing an element of play and amusement into their interaction. This gesture could have been a display of playfulness and lightness while creating a fun and relaxed moment between them. It is important to note that the entire scene probably depends on the context and mood of both partners. Her blushing could have been a reaction to the Count's unexpected and playful gesture. An emotional reaction such as blushing is often a sign of excitement, embarrassment, or excitement. It may indicate that she perceives this moment as something unusual, but perhaps pleasurable and interesting. Her being under him, and his words that from now on she would have no reason to regret, it could create an intimate and passionate moment. These words may have expressed confidence and a desire to create a special and memorable moment in their relationship. It is important to note that it is important to consider the mutual consent and comfort of both partners in intimate situations. After removing her clothes, the Count probably continued to express his passion and intimate desire. In such moments, mutual consent and respect for the partner's boundaries are key. It is important that both feel comfortable and safe with the mutual action, and that all actions are done with the consent of both parties. By saying that she was now only his, the Count may have been expressing his passion and possession in that moment. Discussing preferences and boundaries between partners can help create mutual understanding and comfort in intimate moments. If she felt great, this may be an indicator that she perceives the current moment as positive and enjoyable. Her sense of well-being may include satisfaction, confidence, or even happiness at that moment. Morning came and he wished her good morning in a sweet voice. This moment may be a continuation of their closeness and care for each other. Saying good morning perhaps brings freshness and warmth to the start of a new day, emphasizing the importance of mutual attention and care even after intimate moments. A voice from under the door suddenly woke them out of their morning silence, warning them that the Norton family had been waiting for them downstairs for a long time. It might have caused some embarrassment or laughter, especially if they were not expecting such an intrusion. They might decide to gather themselves and prepare to meet the family, interrupting their moment of solitude. Determined not to be impolite, they walked downstairs to join the Norton family. This may have been a display of their respect for family obligations and their desire to honor social norms on such an important day. Despite the interruption of their private moment, they probably decided to face the new day with positive spirits and joy. Alice's father and her sisters were waiting for them there. Meeting the family was probably filled with joy and warmth, especially in light of such an important day. This moment may have been part of the celebratory mood, and all together they may have been preparing for the next stages of the wedding festivities. Her sisters were discussing her, saying that their first night had gone well, and that he was treating her well. They may have been sharing their impressions of the wedding night and expressing joy for their sister. Such conversations may become part of the traditions and customs after weddings when loved ones discuss important moments in family life. The father said that seeing their love made him feel relieved. This could be an expression of joy and satisfaction that his daughter is in a happy relationship and on the path to marital happiness. Such moments can evoke positive emotions and reassurance that his daughter has found a partner who will be caring and loving. Her sisters whispered to her to do her best to conceive an heir as soon as possible. This is a typical expectation in families with traditional values, especially after marriage. The sisters may have been expressing their hopes for the continuation of the lineage and family legacy. However, it is important to remember that the decision to have children is an individual one, and each couple makes it based on their own circumstances and desires. By intimidating her that they and her father will be watching her, the sisters could try to pressure her about the desired time for the offspring to arrive. Such conversations, however, can create uncomfortable pressure and interfere with the couple's personal decision about when to begin the family addition. It is important to remember that the decision to have children should be made with the mutual consent and willingness of both partners. The carriage left, leaving only the gazes of her father and her sisters to see it off. This moment could be emotional and symbolic, reflecting a farewell to the past life and the beginning of a new stage in the family history. The looks and send-off of loved ones could be filled with love, support, and hope for a happy future for the newlyweds. On the way out, Graf asked Alice why she didn't seem happy and asked her what was wrong. This question reflects his concern and attention to her emotional state. It may also be an attempt to establish an open and honest dialogue to get to the bottom of what may be bothering Alice and how he can help her. Supporting her, the Count said that if she gets sad, she can always come back. His words express care and willingness to be there for her at any time. This may be an attempt to support her emotionally and provide her with reassurance that he is always there to support and understand her feelings. She sweetly thanked him for his support. This gesture may reflect recognition and gratitude for his care and willingness to be there for her, even in difficult moments. Such moments emphasize the importance of mutual understanding and support in a relationship. "Here they are," Alice or someone else would say in response to arriving at their destination. The arrival could be the beginning of a new stage in their lives, involving a new family and further events. He held out his hand for her to get out of the carriage. This gesture may be a show of courtesy and care, emphasizing his willingness to help her get out and meet the new chapter of her life. Father said that the Wister family had untold wealth. This comment probably reflects the high social standing and wealth of the Wister family. In the context of a wedding, it may add an element of luxury and importance to the event, as well as creating certain expectations about the future home and lifestyle of the newlyweds. What she saw was, on the contrary, different from the notions of possessing untold riches. She may have discovered that the reality of the Wister family was not as she had been told, and there was a change in her view of wealth, luxury, and lifestyle. This may be a source of frustration or misunderstanding, creating new challenges to her adjustment to her new family environment. He asked if she regretted coming, but she pretended not to understand him. This response may indicate her dissatisfaction or frustration with what she has discovered in her new family environment. Her lack of understanding may be a way of avoiding a frank conversation or showing that she is not ready to discuss her feelings at this point. She said that in no way did she believe that they were now husband and wife. This may be an expression of her decision to set boundaries and maintain space between her and the Count, perhaps in light of recent events or discoveries. It may also be indicative of her emotional distance at the moment. She supported him by saying that she would always be there for him. This expression of support and promise to be there for important moments in their marriage. Her words may be an attempt to reinforce and emphasize her commitment and willingness to support her partner in difficult situations. It's time for lunch. It may be a moment to take a break to gather, share events, and enjoy lunch with loved ones. Lunch may also provide an opportunity for further conversations and strengthening relationships in a new family setting. Alice stood at the table, looking out in all directions, some kind of bubble in her hands. This moment could be intriguing and mysterious. She may be engaged in something creative or entertaining, such as bubbling liquid. The reaction to her actions may depend on the context and atmosphere around her. She bought the bubbles from a stranger, warning that she would be careful with them. This moment adds interest and fun to the scene. Perhaps the use of bubbles suggests some element of play, fun, or decoration at that moment. It will be important to watch how this element fits into the overall context and character interaction. Suddenly, the Count came in and asked what she was doing. She was startled and said she was doing nothing. This moment may arouse the Count's curiosity, and perhaps he is interested in what she is doing with the bubbles. Alice's reaction to his question may indicate her surprise or embarrassment. She dropped the bubbles, and the Count had questions. This may cause curiosity and surprise, as the situation was unexpected. The Count is probably curious about the reason or motivation for her actions with the bubbles, and this could be the basis for further conversation or even funny moments in their interaction. He curiously asked what it was, and she replied that it was Rosterina. This name is probably fictitious or used to refer to some kind of entertainment or amusement using bubbles. The conversation could continue with a discussion of this new term, and a dialogue between the two could develop. She quickly came up with an idea and said it was medicine for her head. It's a fun turn of events, and her response adds an element of humor. It may have been an unexpected and amusing explanation for the random bubble action, and the Count may react with a smile or a laugh. He asked fearfully why, and if she was dizzy. She replied that she was just tired. This explanation can calm his anxiety and let him know that there is no serious cause for alarm. Explaining fatigue can also be a way of conveying that her actions were unintentional and did not have a negative impact on her health. He picked up the bubble and examined it. He may be interested in the contents or want to understand what it was that caused his concern. This action may be a manifestation of his care and desire to understand the situation in order to be a supportive and caring partner. Then he simply picked it up and placed it on the table. This action may indicate that the Count decided not to attach much importance to the situation with the bubble and went on to a more peaceful development of the evening. Placing the bubble on the table could be a gesture of silent reassurance and understanding. She was nervous. Perhaps she was hiding something. Her nervousness may be related to the fact that the Count considered the bubble or her behavior. She may want to avoid talking about something specific or feel insecure about the situation. This may be an opportunity to openly discuss and find out what is going on to reduce the tension in the relationship. He took her in his arms and said he was going to take her to the doctor. This action may indicate his concern and willingness to look out for her well-being. He may have decided to use the joke about the head medicine to show attention and concern for how she was feeling. She thought he had almost exposed her. Perhaps her nervousness and attempts to hide something were related to some personal or emotional secret. This moment may be the occasion for a deeper conversation between them to clarify the situation and build understanding in the relationship.